A few weeks ago, the British media did something unusual. They went nearly radio silent in the middle of the week on Meghan Markle. What was the variable? What was the thing that happened that made the media go silent in Britain for nearly 24 hours? Well, Meghan Markle's new representation with WME was announced. But as you know, that was not enough for me. But naturally, I couldn't stop there. Because if you give Meredith a cookie, she's probably going to start a multi-week research project to determine if there's any correlation between British media coverage and the announcement of Meghan's new representation with WME, and specifically Ari Emanuel. I am going to show you my findings, and they will live for free on my Patreon, so accessible to everyone. Link in the bio or patreon.com/MeredithConstant. But first, a little bit about WME and Ari Emanuel. This is a 2021 article from The New Yorker. Shout out to Mia on my Discord channel that sent me this. I feel like if all you knew about Ari Emanuel is that he was the inspiration for the Entourage character Ari Gold, that would be enough. Quick, broad strokes. Ari founded Endeavor Agency in 1995. He went on to establish himself as one of the country's most prominent agents. We're talking Martin Scorsese, Charlize Theron, Oprah Winfrey. He did represent Donald Trump at a time, but I never said he was a hero. Eventually, Endeavor would merge with the William Morris Agency, becoming the William Morris Endeavor, better known as WME. Ari at the helm, or co-helm. Which brings us to the research. A couple of notes before we get started. Reminder, this does live on my Patreon, patreon.com/MeredithConstant. It is free for everyone. You do not have to sign up. But if you want to, I wouldn't mind. Moving right along. The way I decided to set up this research was to look at 3 British media entities, all represented in the Royal Rota. I also specifically chose outlets that are represented by different media companies, because roughly 90% of online British media is owned by 3 companies. You have the Daily Mail and the General Trust, who own the Daily Mail. Telegraph Media Group owns the Telegraph. It's a subsidiary of Press Holdings. And finally, you have The Sun, which is owned by Rupert Murdoch's News Corp. I picked 3 to make this manageable. I am a mom with chronic illnesses. There's only so many hours in the day. And every day, I searched these outlets online with the term Meghan Markle. And then I went on to score negative articles, positive articles, and neutral articles, while also indicating when they were neutral but kind of leaned one way or the other. I tried to only highlight and pull out the articles where Meghan Markle is the focus of the story. Because what you find when you really start looking and comparing is that a lot of articles will use Meghan Markle's name in the headline for SEO. I am going to do a fun video on that later. I know, can SEO be fun? We'll find out. So these aren't all the articles. These are just the articles where I felt Meghan Markle was the focus of the story. And of course, you have to account for human error. So right here is all pre-WME announcement, starting from April 22nd. And overall, the articles are negative or neutral, like Archie's party. And of course, the letters leaking, the not coming to the coronation. And then there's articles like Meghan and Harry's date night, which there are a ton of articles on this. So in some cases, I also consolidated because it was literally too much. Obviously, we have the Lakers game. Got some good polling with people thinking that Harry and Meghan are eco-hypocrites. Sarah Vine's article on Meghan's middle part, that one was a doozy. Memories all alone in the moonlight. Pretty sure this is what Cats was about. Anyway, moving on. On the second page, we're getting closer to the news dropping. April 27th, 2023 is when the news of the WME signing seems to break everywhere. And the day before, we have a positive article, we have a negative article, we have a neutral that leans negative. But then April 27th, there's virtually nothing. Then we pick back up on April 28th, 2023. Meghan Markle wears shorts. Groundbreaking. This is also when the news of her family doing an interview in Australia comes out, such as Samantha saying that Meghan Markle is toxic. The writers aren't saying it, Samantha is. It's important to note the reason the WME signing is so significant is that this is an agency that you don't go to them, they come to you. And if media outlets mess with any of their clients, they could be blackballed. Remember, Ari Gold is based off of Ari Emanuel. And this doesn't mean that there should be no critical articles about what Meghan Markle says or does, but there's a difference between critical and negative bias BS. There's a difference. Back to the research. Interestingly, on April 29th, 2023, the Daily Mail deletes an article. It was titled, "Prince Harry Turned Woke Because of Meghan." I did another video on this previously, but it's like the typical article that you get with a source close to, etc. The only difference was quickly deleted. And then you see negative articles, but what's interesting is they're mostly attributed to commentators like Piers Morgan or Dan Wooten, or they're attributed to the family members in that interview, or Donald Trump that had to speak about Meghan again. And then Madame Tussauds in Sydney snubbing Meghan because they didn't include her wax figure in the coronation lineup. This is what constitutes news. And then we move on to May 4th through May 12th. And there are definitely more neutral articles and even a few greens, a few articles that are just straightforwardly positive. And of course we get some negatives, but notice it's Tom Bowers and Angela Levin are among two of the negatives. It's royal experts, commentators, or quotes that can be attributed to another person. I didn't say it, it was Tom Bowers. Then we have May 13th to May 17th. The evening of the 16th is when the car chase in New York City happens and the news explodes. May 13th, all positive articles. May 14th, it's pretty neutral. It switches it up the 15th, and we get a negative article on the 16th, but May 17th, look. And recall, this first article from the Daily Mail about Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, and Doria Ragland jumping into a yellow taxi cab was deleted because it used paparazzi photos that the Daily Mail clearly purchased. And what's interesting is for the rest of the 17th, it's mostly stories about how Meghan looks, what she talked about in her speech. It's pretty neutral. We do have some negatives, but even the Disney's Little Mermaid remake, Dig at Kate, is really more of just a Meghan tie-in to use her name, because Meghan once felt a kinship with the character who lost her voice. The final page is where we finish up. There's a lot more negative on the 18th, but again, we have Dan Wooten, we have Maureen Callahan, we have Jan Moore. It's a lot of commentators who are writing opinion pieces. So this was kind of hard to factor for because, yes, obviously we knew that Meghan Markle's event would get coverage, but we didn't know that there was going to be a car chase, which was going to lead to a whole different news cycle. And because there are so many different ways to spin what different people have said, like the taxi driver, like the New York Police Department, it's kind of hard to factor for this. One thing that would be interesting is maybe to compare to a similar incident and see what the coverage was like on the day and a few days after. Was it better or worse or the same as the coverage from this incident? That could be interesting as well. Let's dig a little more into some of the specific articles and look at why I ranked them a certain way, the SEO of it all, etc. Here's an article I did not include. And the reason being is Meghan Markle is not the focus of the article, but her name is used in the headline. Why is that? Because Meghan Markle generates clicks and that makes advertisers happy. You have to do some heavy-duty scrolling to get to Meghan Markle. So I didn't include it because it's not really a story about her. Here's one I included, but I marked it as a positive except for the Meghan part. It's about Pippa Middleton's wedding, but then they throw in guest list drama involving Meghan Markle and the fear that Meghan might overshadow the bride, which seems like a you problem, but either way. It's glowing besides the part about Meghan. Even Prince George, who apparently got a talking to by his mother, is framed as cheeky and cute and not dramatic or negative. This one from The Telegraph, May 17th, 2023, I put down as positive. The headline reads, "The hidden message behind Meghan's glamorous golden dress." And then it says, "The appearance has been read by many as the latest round in the Kate vs. Meghan show, but it's unlikely to be the case. Women be existing and living lives not to one-up another person." Wow, what a concept. but also quite refreshing. Quote, "The appearance has been read by many as the latest round in the Kate vs. Meghan show, but it's unlikely to be the case, and it's a misogynistic trope to keep pitting the two women against each other." End quote. Yes, thank you, good night. And the author brings up the point that Meghan's dress has the name Ideal Universe. And that would tie into her speech. Now, is it the answer? Maybe not. Maybe she just liked the dress, but if we're looking for meaning, that makes more sense than a swipe against Kate. And then there's this one, because remember, one popular trope that the media pushes is that Meghan is a social climber and will cut you out and dispose of you. Here's another example, this time by Millie McIntosh. I wrote this down as a negative, not just because of the headline, but because of the contents of the article. Important to note, Millie McIntosh is a reality TV star. Nothing against reality TV stars, but they certainly have a wide reach on their shows, and who knows what they might say. Buried down below is this quote from Millie. "We hung out a handful of times. We weren't best friends, but whenever she was in town, she'd let me know and we would just hang out," end quote. So Millie texted Meghan about her dating Harry. And you can't really blame Meghan for being paranoid and maybe thinking, is this acquaintance maybe fishing for information? Maybe Harry warned her about discussing this with anyone. And apparently Meghan replies, but Millie will not disclose what it says. What Millie says is that it felt like she basically told me to F off. But she didn't tell her to F off. That's how Millie felt. And she is, of course, allowed to have these feelings. But it does make me wonder, why not just share the text messages? Maybe you actually care about your privacy and Meghan's privacy, which is fair. But also, why are you talking about something that happened on a podcast 7-8 years later? Maybe Meghan was right to put distance. Here's an example from the car chase stories. It's from The Taxi Driver. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's driver. Chase claims are exaggerated and there was no reason to be afraid. The reason I marked this one as negative is because of the reporting. They make it seem like the taxi driver was refuting what Harry and Meghan said, when in reality, the question posed was, how do you feel about the description of this being near catastrophic? And he's like, don't believe everything you read in the papers. It's exaggerated. We don't know if he was under the impression that this was just the newspaper sensationalizing things or blowing this up, or if it was what the Duke and Duchess of Sussex's spokesperson had said. He might have answered it differently. So this one is negative because of the way it cherry picks information. And while post WME, pre-car chase, we do see an influx of more neutral pieces, some positive pieces, there is one thing that stays consistently negative. These include pieces from the likes of Dan Wooten, Piers Morgan, Camilla Tominey, when she writes opinion pieces, which I sometimes see labeled as commentary on UK outlets. It's like Meghan 2.0, radical feminist, wokey Mick Wilkerson. It's basically a word salad meant to scare conservatives. I'd have to look into this, but I wonder if any libel laws or things of that nature soften if it's an opinion piece. And I don't know if that makes a difference. I'm not well versed in UK libel law, but it is something that I'd like to look into because the consistency and the vitriol in commentaries and opinion pieces remains consistent. And I wonder if that's just easier to skirt around. In conclusion, I think there is some there. That was a lot of theirs. But again, this is just the beginning of my research. I want to give some time for the paparazzi chase news to die down. I want to see how future events and outings are covered. I want to see how she's covered when she isn't doing anything, but they find a way to write about her. And what do they write? Watch this space. There is more to come. And also, if you want to see all of my research so far, you can go to patreon.com/MeredithConstant and view it for free. Until next time.